What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I've been recently talking about the R5 a lot because it is my main camera, but I also want to share with you guys the fact that I picked up another camera, and that is this guy right here, the R6. So I want to talk to you guys about, what is that? That's a big box of animal crackers. This video is sponsored by animal crackers, the #1 source for carbs. It's a lot of animal crackers. I almost finished about 15% of it like in the last week. I don't think that's a good thing, but I should probably toss that. Right here, the R6, the R5, these are my cameras that I use for my everyday workflow and things that I shoot in both photo and video. And again, if you guys didn't check out the R5 video, my thoughts as a hybrid photographer that shoots both photo and video, you guys can check out that video. I'll leave a link here. I always think it's the left side, but it's the right side. It's the opposite side. But you guys knew that. Check that one out. As you guys know, I shoot weddings and events, and it's almost super critical to have a backup. In fact, it is a prerequisite. I don't recommend anyone shooting any event or a wedding or even a portrait session when you have a paid client that shows up on scene and you're only carrying a single camera. However, I did try to shoot a small micro wedding with the R5 and my EOS R, and that was okay. It's just that the button placement and the way the camera works is quite different. Where you have the joystick or multi-control joystick on the R5, the EOS R had a touch screen to move your focus point. It was quite a bit annoying to kind of switch between the two cameras. Now, you guys know, if you guys are familiar with weddings, at least my particular style, I typically dual weld my camera. My longer lens would be on my left, my shorter lens would be on my right, and you're always just kind of switching between the two cameras. So it's almost critical to have cameras that function basically the same. At least for me, that's my workflow. So when I was looking for a camera to kind of take place of the EOS R and to shoot alongside with the EOS R5, I was really in the place of, should I get another R5 because it's such a great camera, or should I get an R6? In fact, let me tell you, my last wedding that I shot with both these two cameras, I shot more images with the R6. And I'll tell you a little bit about that later in this video. But if you put the two cameras in your hand, you definitely feel the substantial difference in terms of body weight. The R5 is quite a bit heavier. You can feel the heft a little bit. But the R6, I gotta say, I think the depth of the grip is a little bit less on the R5, on the R6 rather. Yeah, I think the R5 grip is a little bit deeper. Missing on the R6 compared to the R5 is the top-down screen. It is replaced with a traditional dial. For those of you who are actually coming from DSLRs such as 5D Mark IV, this will kind of feel right at home where you have this twisty dial and you have the custom functions. And again, I made a mention in the R5 video, the reason why I went for the R5 over the R6 was because there is no custom functions for video mode. However, this is a secondary camera to me compared to the R5, so that really wasn't a consideration there. This was just a higher performing camera when it comes to shooting weddings and events because I wouldn't have that much work on the back end in terms of size and resolution. Now you're probably thinking, is 20 megapixels enough for me? And I would say for a majority of people, 20 megapixels is more than enough for a lot of photographers. I personally think that the R6 is an incredible wedding, event, sports photographer's camera. Now, I made a mention of this in my R5 video that the 45 megapixel images in RAW can actually eat a lot of performance out of your computer when you're in Lightroom and just kind of editing those photos. With the R6, the images are 20 megapixels and they just flow. They're great. They're beautiful to work with because you have this speed of workflow. For a typical prep, all that portraits, I'll probably shoot with the R5 just because I want that extra resolution for prep to crop in, move away all the things that you don't want to be seen in prep when it comes to a wedding. Family formals, I'll shoot with the R5, but when it comes to everything else, the ceremony, the reception, there's a lot of photos that are taken there that I don't necessarily need to blow up 45 megapixels. I'd rather much prefer to have the 20 megapixel sensor, slightly better low light performance, and shoot those parts of the day with the R6. Let's talk about some of the features very briefly, because again, this is not a camera review type of channel. They both have 5-axis image stabilization. They both have 12 frames a second mechanical, 20 frames per second electronic. I think for weddings and events and those types of things, I just stick with mechanical shutter. Electronic shutter is still kind of iffy right now. It's not a global shutter, but that's kind of like a lot of tech jargon there. I don't know if you guys are interested, but the wheels, the dials, everything about here in terms of the back of the camera, the multi-control, all that is identical when you're comparing it with the R5, which basically makes it that good. I mean, even the little thumb pad here where you rest your thumb exists on the R6. It's not as deep, I don't think. Yeah, I think the R5 is a little bit deeper, but it's still there, so you can kind of single-handedly hold this camera and just shoot out. I don't doubt for 1 second that the R6 is an extremely capable photographer slash videographer's camera. Also, you'll notice the outer shell in the front doesn't have, when you compare it with the R5, it doesn't have sort of that rubbery right there in the front. And the R6 does not have that. It's more of just the polycarbonate shell. And it doesn't have the rubberized texture. Doesn't feel as premium, but it's certainly capable for what it is. As far as ports and all that jazz, basically the same thing. It's shooting with the micro HDMI and USB-C. Yeah, so I'm not really a fan of the micro HDMI, but basically the same setup as you would have on the R5. So that's what it is. That's fun stuff there, right? The LCD is a little bit smaller on the R6 compared to the R5, but it's a good LCD. I don't feel like I could see any real difference in just kind of normal use. Both of them have EVFs. However, I do notice when I'm looking through the EVF, the R5 has a much more crispy kind of detail in it. It does have, I think, 5.7 million dots on the R5, and the R6 has something like 3.7. Is it going to bother you? No, because both of them are still on standard mode, have 60 hertz, and if you go into the high speed mode, both of them can do 120 hertz. One side note, if you do switch to 120 hertz, it will drain the hell out of your batteries. So really just use it sparingly. Don't make the same mistake I did and be like, hey, why is the battery life so short? Because you're using high speed. But keep it on 60. I think it's good for a majority of the things. I shot my last wedding, I kept both of them at 60, and the batteries lasted a good while for the wedding. Both of them use the new NH batteries. Performance-wise, I would say if you had a set of 4 batteries at a wedding, 2 sets of batteries for each camera, you will be good to go. Autofocus performance on these cameras are incredible, and there's no slouch. There's almost no difference with the R6. Really happy about that. Like I said, at a wedding event, when you're shooting dual welding, both of those cameras perform identical in performance. Pretty cool. Dual card slots are really important. That's what the R6 has. It shoots with 2 UHS 2 SD cards, which is pretty cool because they're basically the same card, and you can swap between the slots, no problem, compared to the R5. When it comes to video performance, the R6 shoots 4K 60. It doesn't have an HQ mode. It shoots in IPB and versus all eye. It also shoots 1080 at 120 frames. Pretty great that Canon is basically offering these features now. I know it's a little bit slow, but they finally have it, and it's really considered a great hybrid camera as well, if you don't need the resolution of the R5. But that's kind of it, guys. I really want to make this very brief. It's a very good, capable camera. And to answer the question is, who is the R6 for? Now, if you guys are shooting weddings and events, including sports, I think the R6 is more than capable. 20 megapixel sensor, because it's a very, very clean image. If you are lusting for the video features such as 4K 120, 4K HQ, then you'll probably have to jump with the R5. If you guys like this video, let me know in the comments down below. Hit that like button, subscribe. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.